you wicked and lazy servant. Cheerful. Well, I have a question for you this morning. Very simple question. Are you gifted? Well, are you? Are you good at anything at all? Of course you are. This, I've come to learn, is America. And everyone is gifted in America. If there's one thing that defines the US, it is not underconfidence in our own abilities. I have to confess that my wife and I are avid American Idol viewers. We don't watch a lot of TV, but that's one thing. We rush home. If you ever are doing anything with us on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, like a small group, and suddenly we disappear, that's where we've gone. But it's fascinating to watch, particularly in the auditions. People come forward, and without fail, almost everybody is so convinced of their ability. They are utterly, utterly sure that they have something very special to offer the world. Is that how you feel this morning? Do you feel that you have something very special to offer the world? Now, I don't watch a lot of TV, but there's another TV show that I do enjoy. Just so that you know, American Idol was actually a British TV series first. Okay, just so you know that. All right. Just so you know. But there is a show in Britain that was originated in America, and it's called The Apprentice. And who here watched The Apprentice? Do you ever watch The Apprentice? Okay. Now, I'm fascinated by The Apprentice because I don't know really why it makes good television at all. But I think actually it works for this very simple reason. What you watch is you watch people who make great claims about their gifts and abilities. That's how it starts. It's clever television. What they do is they'll set you up. I don't suggest you go on it. They're going to set you up. They will set you up to make claims about your abilities that you have not yet explored. And then we'll watch you come apart. That's why it makes a good television. Now, this series we've called Gifted is looking at the whole question of giftedness. And from the point of view of the Bible, I want to suggest to you this morning that we often misunderstand what gifts are. The Bible is both far more practical and earthy than we think it is, and it is far more heavenly minded than we think it is. And next week, Al is going to talk about spiritual gifts, but this week I want to talk about earthly gifts. And this morning, since I asked you the question, are you gifted? I'm going to tell you exactly what your gifts are. Okay? So, are you ready for this? What I want you to do, you knew this was coming, or at least some of you did. I wanted you to take out your wallets, please. Well, everybody, please take out their wallets. And put them in your lap. Okay, then when you've done that, will you please get out your calendars? Anything that has a calendar on your phones, whatever it is, whatever you use to organize your week or your life. Then when you've done that, reach back into your purses or whatever it is and bring out your keys, your car keys, your house keys. I'm shaking it out. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, Claire, are you here? We're going to go around with the basket and... What? No. Mentally, hold those in your lap. Mentally, I also want you to put in there the things that you have been educated in, your jobs, the things that you can actually do. Okay? Mentally put those in your hands, the experiences that you've actually have. From the point of view of the Bible, what you have in your laps are your gifts. These are your gifts. These are the things that God has entrusted you with. They are the resources that you have been given and are responsible for. And the question is not, do we have them? Because obviously you do, because you're sitting there with them in your laps. The question is, what are we going to do with them? Now, this morning we read from the parable of the talents. And it's one of three parables where Jesus talks to his disciples and not to a general audience. So this parable is not aimed at a general audience. So if you're not sure that you're a follower of Jesus this morning and you're here visiting, you can just relax, because this is really aimed at the followers of Jesus, and it doesn't give them a particularly nice time. There are 3 parables in this little series of parables, and they all end badly. There's the parable of the wise and the foolish virgins. Do you remember that parable? It's the parable where there are 10 virgins, and 5 are ready and 5 are not. Do you remember what happens to the 5 foolish virgins? They get shut out. Then after this parable comes the parable of the sheep and the goats. And it's a parable about those who have and who have not fed the little ones. Little ones is a little code word meaning disciples. So it means those who have and have not provided for the disciples of Christ. That ends badly too. And this parable ends with a weeping and gnashing of teeth, which is another code for hell. It's not talking to the world, he's talking to us. It's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Now, I'm not going to talk very much about that anymore. I just wanted to say that, and you will have to decide in your own mind whether that's hyperbole to make a point or whether there is some literal application of what he's talking about. But the main point of these parables, and this parable in particular, has all to do with gifts. Let me just read to you a little bit from this parable. Again. Jesus is making a point saying, have you got this? Have you understood? It will be like a man going on a journey who calls his servants, that's probably us, and entrusts his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. So it's a story of a master who, going away, gives gifts to his servants. That's us. Now these gifts are not so much gifts as we often understand it, they are resources. The word talent here is a little bit confusing, because talent in our own mind often brings up ideas of singing, music, whatever it is. But the word talent did not mean that. It had no association whatsoever with any of that at the time that this was written. What it simply means is money. A talent was a weight. It was a weight of money. And it's actually quite a lot of money. 1 talent is worth about $750,000, something like that. It's a weight of gold. It's a lot of money. There is some kind of correlation with ability here. The amount is given according to the ability of each one. But the point of the parable is not how much or how great our ability is, or the sums or the resources that we've been given. Some of us are going to be sitting here thinking, I don't have a great deal in my lap right now. I might not even have a car, or my house is not my own, or I don't have a great deal of money. But the issue in the parable touches on is not whether we have anything at all or how much, but how will we use what is in our hands. And here's how the servants respond. The man who had received 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also with the one with 2 talents, he gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. Now, that isn't as stupid as it sounds. At the time that this parable was written, there were no banks, or very, very few. So it was a standard way to look after your money. If you had money, something set aside, it was absolutely standard practice to go and hide it in the ground. About 25 years ago, there was a little economic wobble. Some of you here might remember it. And in Britain, we all thought the world was going to end. And my father went out and bought some gold and went and buried it in the back garden. He's now 82 years old. He had a stroke 5 years ago. He can't remember where he buried the money. So every Christmas, my family have a little ritual where we all gather around him and say, now, Dad, you remember that money? And he goes, we don't know where it is. One day when we sell the house, you'll find me digging in the garden. Why does the third servant bury his resources? It's not a stupid thing to do. It's a lot of money, about $750,000. Why? Is he lazy? Is he stupid? Is he fearful? Or is it simply that what he's been given has no direct interest for him? He's not going to receive anything back from what he does with this sum of money? Is that what it is? The point is in the answer the master gives in verses 26 and 27. This is the answer that the master gives to the lazy servant. You wicked and lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, you would have received it back. I would have received it back with interest. Again, let's put this in some kind of context. There were very few bankers at the time. To lend money and to make interest was a risky thing to do. It was not a secure thing to do. The point that this parable is making is that you have some resources and you need to risk them on the kingdom of God. That's what the parables are telling us. We have gifts. We have things in our hands now. We have what we have. When are we going to start using them? Because we're all a bit like that third servant. We can all find a reason why we might not want to use whatever we have right now. In my experience, this is the way it goes. Some idiot gets up and starts going on about serving God and using your gifts in church. It feels like a bit like a guilt trip. So what we do is we make a statement to ourselves that goes something like this. Well, I've always thought that what I would be good at, what my real gift that nobody has seen yet is, or what I should be doing is X, Y, Z. Then what we do is we say, well, I can't do that yet because I'm just not ready. But I'm going to wait for some kind of sign from God or some kind of opportunity to come up. I'm going to wait for a blueprint to fall out of the sky. I'm going to wait for the big call. And we wait for the plan or for the opportunity or for the moment. So, I've told you what your gifts are. Now I'm going to tell you what the plan is. And here is the blueprint falling out of the sky. You want to see that again? I picked a particularly heavy Bible. That's it. The aim is to make disciples of all nations. There is no other goal. There is no other purpose. The parable is making 2 points. Know what you have been given. Know what you have in your lap. Know what your resources are and use them. When? Now. Now, this is not meant to be a guilt trip, and I want to set this in the context of life and life to the full, of love and living abundantly. Just listen to a couple of other verses from this parable. This is for those who have simply done what the master expected of them, which is to risk using what they have. That's all it is, to risk using what they have. And this is the response they get. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many. Come and share your master's happiness." You've been faithful with a few things. That is all we're being asked of. We're being asked to be faithful with the few things that we have in our laps. And then it finishes like this. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Our call is to use what we have. They are our gifts. Our gifts and resources are not something out there which we will one day get. They're what we have absolutely now. The task is the mission of the church, and what we are being asked to do is to risk using what we have today, now. It's not about failure, it's not about daring, it's about daring to risk. It's okay to give things a go and for it to not work. It's not like The Apprentice, okay? And you will never hear from God, "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired." No, let me tell you, this morning, you're hired. You're hired. You're hired. You're hired. You're hired. You're hired. There's not one of us who has not been hired.